Imagine this. You match with a person on a dating app. A few hours later, you're sitting on a private jet. The person across from you is charming, successful, and seems to know everyone. Luxury hotels, designer clothes, business meetings around Europe. Their life looks exactly like something you'd expect from the child of a billionaire. Then, only weeks later, your phone rings. They're terrified. Someone is trying to kill them. They say they can't use their own bank accounts because their enemies are watching. They need your help just for a few days. Thousands of people have watched this story unfold and asked the same question. How could anyone fall for that? Today's story isn't about breaking into banks or hacking computers. It's about something much more powerful, trust. Because sometimes the safest looking person in the room is the most dangerous one. And in this case, that trust would cost multiple women millions of dollars. But to understand how that happened, we have to go back where it all began. A simple swipe on a dating app. In 2018, online dating had become completely normal. Millions of people were searching for relationships every day. One of them was Cecily Fielhoy. Like many people, she wasn't looking for excitement. She was looking for someone genuine. Then one profile caught her attention. His name was Shimon Hayut. According to his profile, he was the son of a billionaire who owned an international diamond empire. Normally, that kind of claim would sound unbelievable, but his photos seemed to support every word. Private jets, luxury hotels, business travel, security guards. Everything appeared authentic. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of chatting for days, he asked to meet immediately. Why the rush? Most first dates happen over coffee. This one happened in the air. Within hours of matching, Cecily found herself boarding a private jet. There were other passengers, employees, business associates, a bodyguard. Nothing about the experience felt staged. In fact, every person she met seemed to confirm the story. This wasn't a man just claiming to be wealthy. His entire world appeared to prove it. By the end of the first day, she wasn't wondering if he was real. She was wondering how she had been lucky enough to meet him. And that's exactly where he wanted her. Over the next several weeks, the relationship grew quickly. There were constant phone calls, voice messages, photos from around the world, business meetings, luxury hotels. He always seemed to be somewhere new, somewhere important. He wasn't asking for anything. In fact, it looked like he was spending far more money on the relationship than she ever could. So, if money wasn't the goal, what was? Then everything changed. One afternoon, Cecilia received photographs that immediately made her stomach drop. His bodyguards appeared to be badly injured. There was blood. Soon after, her phone rang. He sounded exhausted, panicked. He explained that enemies connected to the diamond business were hunting him. Because of that danger, he couldn't use his own credit cards. If he did, they would know where he was. He only needed help for a short time. He promised every dollar would be repaid. At first, it didn't seem unreasonable. A temporary loan, then another, then another. Each time, there was a new emergency, a new explanation, a new promise that repayment was just around the corner. Something else happened too. Even while asking for money, he continued living exactly the same lifestyle: private jets, luxury hotels, designer clothes. If he was running for his life, how was he still living like a billionaire? That contradiction should have exposed everything. Instead, it made the story seem even more believable. After all, that's exactly how billionaires live, right? As the debts grew larger, Cecily began looking for answers. What she discovered changed everything. She wasn't the only woman receiving desperate phone calls. She wasn't the only woman taking out loans. She wasn't the only woman who believed she was saving the man she loved. One by one, the victims found each other, and suddenly a pattern began to appear. The same story, the same emergencies, the same promises. If every woman thought she was the only one, who was paying for the private jets? That question led investigators to the most important clue. Luxurious lifestyle wasn't funded by enormous wealth. It was funded by the victims themselves. Money borrowed by one woman financed dates with another. New loans paid for expensive hotels, flights, restaurants, luxury shopping. As more victims came forward, journalists began comparing evidence, messages, travel records, financial documents. Everything pointed to the same man. The billionaire identity was fake. The family connection was fake. The business empire was fake. The confidence, however, that was completely real. Authorities eventually arrested Hayut while he was traveling under a false identity. The illusion that had fooled so many people had finally come to an end. But for many of his victims, the financial consequences were only the beginning. Most scams don't begin with a request for money. They begin by earning trust. One believable experience leads to another until eventually saying yes feels completely natural. That's why intelligent people become victims, not because they ignore red flags, because by the time the red flags appear, they've already been surrounded by what looks like overwhelming evidence that everything is real. And that's what makes this case so interesting. It wasn't a scam built on lies alone. It was a scam built on carefully constructed experiences. The Tinder Swindler reminds us that appearances can be manufactured, trust can be engineered, and confidence can be weaponized. The question isn't whether someone can create a convincing story. The question is whether we're willing to slow down long enough to test it.